Solo always does shots first. Singing yup no.
Yup, yup.
You're singing yup no.
Chucha.
Yup no.
No.
At the Cantina Club.
All right, hello there, and welcome to something that's so new we don't even have a name for it yet. This is going to be Greedo and
the
CorellianTraitor
ancients called
talking
it
about
leprosy.
That's what we
don't
call
know
it in
what
the
to call it.
Ages, but now we call it a skin condition. So, anyway, what Greedo and I are going to be doing is basically talking about other things, not necessarily directly Star Wars related. We're going to talk about other shows that we're interested in, other pop culture interests that we have. So for this particular episode, we're going to start discussing Season 9 of The Walking Dead. And as at the time of this recording, we're between episodes 1 and 2. So we're going to talk a little bit about episode 1, just kind of give our feelings on that particular episode, and just kind of do this as a weekly thing for each episode. All right. So first of all and foremost, tell me a little bit about your relationship with The Walking Dead. Like, how did you get into it? Did you watch it from day one? Were you a latecomer to the show? What's your take on everything to this point?
When you say relationship with The Walking Dead, it sounds like we're going into some really dark web material here, like the necrophilia cast. No. No, I totally looked into The Walking Dead because I like comics and graphic novels, but not enough to go buy them and read them. I just don't really. If somebody recommends one to me, I might check it out. So I didn't know anything about the graphic novel or comic, whatever it is. And one day I was watching cable on a Sunday afternoon, and I saw a commercial. It said Walking Dead premieres in however a couple hours and however minutes. And I was like, what is that? I had no idea a show like that was coming on, and it had the gruesome artwork, like all the zombies were pressed together and reaching out towards the screen was the first image you saw. And I think it was probably from the Atlanta stuff that they did or something. But it was very gothic looking, very true horror looking. And I was like, what? And it almost had kind of a sepia tone, black and white feel to it, like washed out. And it immediately made me think of Night of the Living Dead and like some of the original hardcore zombie stuff. Right. So I was interested. So I got all excited and, watched it. And the first episode to me is just phenomenal. Like that whole opening and the setup for it is so clever. The way they kind of dodge, showing you everything that happened, and put you in the shoes of a guy that you can, you understand he's the hero, but he has no idea what's going on. So you learn through his eyes. You're in the same boat. His eyes,
you're just as clueless as he is.
Yeah. Well, you actually know more than he does, and that was super clever. And the way that first episode or two ends with Morgan deciding not to shoot his zombie wife was so effective. Like, that was a real good idea, And so I was hooked from that point on, and watched every season. My favorite seasons were the first few. A lot of people criticized the farm and all that, but I actually liked all that because I thought Herschel was a compelling character, and when Shane and Rick were still butting heads, I thought that was cool. I've really, really tailed off in the last 2 years, and I just hold on for those episodes where it's still really good. And it seems to me like you get maybe 3 or 4 a year. Yeah. Where you go, wow, it seems like it's getting back on track, but then the next week they go right back to some kind of weird filler or something. So I've been on my last legs with it, but still wanting to see what happens and willing to watch, and willing to, especially since they made some changes evidently, which I don't know a lot about, but I wanted to see what this new season was going to bring. So yeah, but I'm a fan, but I'm also very frustrated with the show, and have been for a while.
All right. So before I go into my background on it, I do want to mention briefly, everyone knows by now who's a Walking Dead fan, of course, the passing of Scott Wilson on October 6th, which was a big loss for the acting community. I must admit I wasn't really aware of him until The Walking Dead. That's more of a statement about my inability to focus on anything
Right.
beyond my own parameters versus his inability to be in, to do such a great job acting. But I was lucky enough to meet him in 2015, 2016 in Atlanta at the Walker Stalker Con. Ironically, a very short, funny story. We were staying at the hotel where the event was taking place, and we got there the day before. It was myself and my fiance and one of her good friends who had traveled to Atlanta for the show. And when we pulled into the valet parking area of the hotel, Scott Wilson actually got out of the car in front of us. He was driving the car right in front of me. He actually got in. I was like, and they were oblivious. I was like, guys, that's Herschel. They're like, huh? And they looked up like, oh my God, it is Herschel. And so I spoke to him briefly at that point. It was nice just to talk to him and see him at the convention and all that. But anyway, so it's definitely our loss in the in this world. So okay, so getting into my particular
that was a bit shocking too. Yeah,
it was because I honestly wasn't aware that he was sick.
Oh.
But yeah, apparently from what I understand, it was some form of leukemia, was it?
Terrible.
Or just something along. I know it was some form of cancer, but I don't recall.
I had just watched Hostiles, how you pronounce it. A couple of nights before that, I heard he passed, and little did I know he was at the end of that movie. I don't know if you've seen it, but he plays kind of a bad guy at the end of the movie, and really brought a lot to the small part. It was really great, and then he passed away right 2 nights after I finally saw that. It's like, wow, shocking.
Yeah.
Go ahead with what you're saying.
And of course, he actually ironically passed away on the eve of the debut of season 9 of The Walking Dead. And also, spoiler alert, from what I understand, he is actually going to be in this season. I'm assuming maybe in some sort of flashback mode, because I know some of the actors have come back. Some of the ones who have passed on from earlier episodes and earlier seasons are actually going to be making appearances in the new season. I'm assuming it's all going to be tied in with Rick leaving the show, with Andrew Lincoln leaving the show, and they're going to have some sort of flashback or something, I'm assuming. But anyway, so my history with Walking Dead, I did not watch it from day one. I've never been a big fan of zombie movies or that sort of genre. So it really didn't catch my attention. I was aware of it, just wasn't really interested. And then I did catch an odd episode here and there because I had a couple of friends who watched it. And I saw an episode here and there, and I thought, oh, that looks actually pretty good. Maybe something I'll go back and watch later, which is what I ultimately did. So I think it was around season 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it wasn't until around season 4. And then actually my current fiance, when I started seeing her several years ago, she's a really big fan of the show, and to the point that she even jokingly says when we first met at our first coffee date, when we were talking about different shows that we watch, and she said that when I made the comment that I didn't watch The Walking Dead, she really had to kind of sort of reassess things at that point. I really want to see this guy if he's not watching my favorite show.
Did she ever ask you if you were willing to wear a Daryl wig? Is that a deal breaker for her?
Yeah. No, she's actually she's a Rick Grimes guy or gal.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
But anyway, so she got me into it. She actually let me borrow her first 3 or 4 seasons worth of DVDs. I watched those literally over about a 1-week period, and was hooked right away. And I watched it and just finished the fourth season, I think about a week before season 5 premiered. So I've basically been watching since season 5 every week. So that's where I am. And I honestly, like you, I'm the same way about Walking Dead. The first 5-6 seasons I was really into, and since then it's really had a decided quality drop off for me.
It's frustrating.
Yeah, writing and production wise.
To be an audience member. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been pretty rough. I mean, and as far as getting me right to this point, last season, season 8, I thought the first half of the season was absolutely one of the worst things I've ever seen, and it was just terrible. Every episode dragged, and it was so bad. And the episode where Carl died was just like, oh my goodness, it's an hour and a half of literally just watching him sit there and do nothing. It's like, and it killed me. But then for some reason, to me, the second half of the season seemed to work much better. That gave hope that things are going to be on the rebound a little bit. And then the trailer for the new season really sparked my interest more than it had in a couple of years. So I kind of got back into that. So anyway, that's where I am, holding out hope against possible hope that it's better. but that's where I kind of am. So let's go ahead and jump into the first episode. So one thing I was really interested coming into this season was the fact that there is a time jump, which is the first sort of massive time jump that we've had in the span of the show. So basically, we're a year and a half or 18 months, ahead of the end of the war. And all the communities basically have rebuilt. They're all going to a more agrarian society. I do like the fact that they're finally realizing that it's beyond the point of belief that all these cars are everywhere available to perfectly functioning, and with this endless supply of fuel for them. They finally got
and everybody's skilled at hot wiring them too. Like everybody's learned that goddamn path for every model of car. You can just jump right on hot wire, no problem.
Exactly. So, I do like the fact that they're kind of making it a little bit more realistic from that standpoint. So, so jumping into it now, we've got the rebuilt communities of Alexandria, Hilltop. We got the Kingdom. We've got Oceanside, the Sanctuary, and they're all, again, going agrarian. They've all got new leaders. I think Daryl is now basically the leader of the Sanctuary. He took over for where Negan was. Maggie, of course, is running Hilltop. Rick and Michonne are Alexandria. Ezekiel, Carol, and so forth are at the Kingdom. So we've still got the separate groups. Everybody's still around, but they're still in their separate groups. So we start out this episode basically going into DC. So what did you think about that whole start of the episode with their attempts to go into DC to collect artifacts, as it were?
Okay. As a set piece, I thought it worked really well. It didn't really draw me in with any tension. I did want to ask you one thing before we get on that. What did you think of the new intro?
I liked it.
Do you remember it?
Yeah, I remember. It struck me, of course, because it's been the same for so long. I thought it was good. It seems like more of a kind of an homage to the graphic novels.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, it almost looked like a comic or something.
It really did look like
more artistic.
Absolutely. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was well done. You thought the same?
Yeah. It wasn't really. I think some of their intros have been fantastic in the past of establishing that horror vibe with the music. The music's so great and everything. That it was a little jarring for a second, but I did like it. It's time they shook some things up and made a statement that things are going to be a little different, and I think that's what they were doing. Yeah. And maybe I didn't think about that. That is an homage to the comic or graphic novel. Maybe they're making a statement. They're going to try to get back on track more with the comics. I don't know. And when you were talking about binging the show, I did that with the comics. I got a couple of those big volumes and read through them pretty fast. Yeah, it was shocking to me how different some of the stories were, like the governor and all that stuff was so different, but they went as far as they probably could on TV without doing some of the things that
I've never really been a comics fan and never really read any graphic novels. I just have a real sort of distant interest in them. And I've never read the Walking Dead comics. I do have a lot of friends who read them, and I don't really care about the spoilers, so they'll tell me, what's this like in the comics and what's coming next. And as far as the comics, plus it may not even be spoilers because we know how far they've changed from the comics anyway. So I don't really have a particular interest in all that. So getting back to the set piece in DC, what did you think of all that?
Well, I thought it was a good idea. The set was awesome, and it was good to see them doing something different and spending some money on the show, it looked like. Overall, that's one plus. I'll put in the check mark or in the box for good things on this premiere. To me, it looked like they spent money on it. It looked bigger. It looked a little more convincing. The sets, it's been so frustrating for so long when they just don't seem to want to spend money on that show when it's the #1 show in the world or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's too little too late, but anyway, it looked great. The whole thing of the glass floor just seems so, pun intended, transparent.
Yeah. Kind of contrived.
You knew what was going to happen,
Yeah.
and I don't really understand why they need a wagon. I mean, can anyone explain that to me? Was it just to carry the stuff they were taking from there?
Probably just to carry the stuff they were taking.
Or why didn't they bring one? Why didn't they bring one with them and leave it out front? They didn't have to roll across the glass.
Yeah.
Why was that wagon so important? I mean, they really that dumb? They can't build a wagon. But I mean, they need one from whatever era that wagon was from. So if somebody could tell me why that wagon was important, maybe I would understand. But that just seemed like a set piece to put somebody in jeopardy. It was kind of cool. They always come up with cool ways to separate people from zombies, and the clock is ticking and the zombies are going to get loose. And that was just another situation. I understand the seeds thing, getting the seeds from there. That was the most important thing. But all the kind of ancient technology just seems kind of like a little dumbed down, like they were informing the audience, this is where we're at now. We're going to the past to figure out how to go to the future. Well, didn't we already have that with that book that one woman gave to them about how to rebuild society?
Right.
So it just seemed kind of like a really obvious nod to, to put all these plot elements together. We're looking for old things that still work. We're going to go to museums for a set piece. And it just seemed a little obvious, but maybe I was thinking too much, but the pacing and stuff, all of that on the first half to me just felt a little off.
Okay.
But everything looked good, and I thought the most interesting thing they established there was Michonne, because she obviously is weighing on her mind that things aren't working, with their society, or that there's problems, and she can see, she's looking far enough ahead to see there's going to be huge issues, and so she's in this museum, and it's just funny that it'd be her character to start thinking about the old world and America and government, and you could tell all that was going through her mind, like, how are we going to organize these people so that we're not just barbarians?
Right.
So I thought that was interesting because thinking ahead, she's probably going to be the character to put it all together. You would think.
It seems like going that way, yeah.
That was definitely an establishing plot point that's going to go forward, unless they do like The Walking Dead has done many times and just drop things and go nowhere with it.
There's something nonsensical, Exactly.
But it definitely seemed like this was a major thing we're going to see going forward, and I like it because Michonne was a silent badass when she showed up, but now she's way, way more than that, and she has many facets to her character, and they need to let her step out, and she's already shown she can be a leader, and and when Rick is gone and Maggie's gone, who else is going to lead? So it's good to be developing her.
Okay. Yeah, I enjoyed the whole set piece as well. I thought it was pretty well done. Again, I thought the glass floor was a little contrived, a little predictable, but saying that, I still felt some anxiety over it. I was like, ooh, that's pretty intense, So, I don't really have that much of a problem with it, to be honest with you. It's, again, indicative of probably how far The Walking Dead quality is Wise Has Fallen, that I was like, that's really good. That's the best thing I've seen in 3 seasons. But
they couldn't find any other path except the one that went over the glass floor with the zombies underneath. You know what I mean? It was just And also, if you were really serious about this, why wouldn't you go down to the next level and clear those guys? You just bring one at a time into a building. Sometimes impatience just kills everyone. This is like, why aren't you guys more methodical and just truly clear it? And then, couldn't anybody see that somebody's going to fall through there? And then the glass is cracking. Why didn't Rick, as the leader, go, hang on a minute?
Technically, I guess you could say they saw it because they at least tied themselves to the poles,
Right, that's true. That's true. Yeah, why kill the zombies when you can tie yourself to the pole? Nothing could possibly go wrong with that.
No way.
But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. So the group leaves there, and then they're trying to make their way back to Hilltop, but they find that the recent storm has washed out the bridge there, and then we've got basically Rick trying to get them to go back to Alexandria and wait out the water levels, and Maggie doesn't want to leave her child, who of course she has had now. She's had she and Glenn's baby because of the time jump, obviously.
Right. And no one wanted to see that.
No.
No one wanted to actually be shown the moment, and they named the child. And I'm sure none of the Walking Dead fans wanted to actually see that. Let's just skip over all the stuff people have been waiting for.
And I do like the fact that they named the baby Herschel.
Yeah.
After a father, that was good. So they kind of part ways at that point. We have what I call on Walking Dead a completely useless death. At this point, when we have so correct me if I'm wrong. Have we ever seen this Ken before?
No, I can't remember him at all.
Okay, so here's the thing.
He's gonna die when he gets a line. He just had a line out of nowhere.
Here's one of my Walking
Nothing happens to me. And then he's
yeah. Here's one of my Walking Dead problems. So they want us to feel this excruciating agony over the death of a character we've never seen before.
Right.
Why? I don't understand why they try to milk that so much. I mean, I get it. You just killed a character. The character we've never seen, we've not have any attachment to, but they just do this scene where everybody's just wailing and gnashing of teeth. You would have thought Rick just died the way these people were reacting almost. It's like, okay, who is this person again? I don't get it.
It implied to me that people just don't die that much anymore from zombies. It was they were overconfident, and which is weird. That just doesn't seem right. I think people. But my major problem with that wasn't just that we had never seen him before. It was just that he was too dumb to live. Yeah. He was too friggin' dumb to live. And at this point in the apocalypse, shouldn't those people be dead by now? I mean, they really, on Fear the Walking Dead, that guy hid in a brewery for 5 years and then came out and finally killed a zombie the first time. You have been in this long, you've never killed a zombie?
Yeah.
For that guy, he went back for the horse, which was cool. It was showing his humanity. And the horse kicked him or whatever happened. Mm-hmm. But then the characters all go, well, let's kill all these zombies. And 5 seconds later, they killed all the zombies. So why were they abandoning the wagon in the first place? Yeah,
it's that easy to kill all the zombies. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nobody even tried. All their best fighters were running, and this kid was the only one going back. Nobody thought to release the horse, and the whole thing was just poorly executed and thought out. And if I see another person just getting obviously bitten on the arm like that, it's like, oh no, don't bite, you're coming to bite my, don't bite my arm. It's like, really, you can't you can't see that coming. It's like, or the inevitable bite on the shoulder or whatever. The zombie's just suddenly right there, just boom, But I can't believe Michonne, Rick, who else was there? Was Daryl there?
I want to say
Daryl might have been there. I think he was.
Maggie had already gone at that point.
They had a whole bunch of badasses standing around doing nothing, and this kid runs back and gets bitten and then tromped on by a horse.
Right.
So yeah, he was too dumb to live, and I'm not going to shed a tear for him.
Yeah.
He was a plot point. He was there to advance the plot.
Cut.
Okay. So anyway, the kid was too dumb to live. I'm not going to cry over him. And it was a bad... I don't understand. Things you pointed out. We've never seen him before.
Right. Why are they trying to make us feel something we don't feel at this point?
And there was no tension to the scene. It looked like it was thrown together in post and editing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? The horse was too hard to handle, so they shot the kid running towards it separately. We never got we just show him with the heart. There was no tension built up. The zombie was just instantly, they went from being down the road to instantly biting the kid. It's like,
yeah,
that whole thing was chaos. It didn't really work.
Yeah.
But anyway.
All right. So from there, basically, the rest of the episode, I think, was, it really, overall, this episode was slow. I think you probably agree with that. It was really kind of plotting as far as pacing is concerned. There were a couple of moments that were interesting, but overall, it really had the feel of what it basically was an establishing episode. Like you said, they were belaboring the point of, we are starting over, we are agrarian now, we are, finding seeds to grow things, stuff like that.
There was a lot of exposition too. They showed us some things, but they also told us, they told us Gregory encouraged democracy, and there was an election, and Maggie was voting. Yeah. They told us some things, they showed us some things. I didn't get tied down by that. That was fine. And some exposition is fine.
Right.
But there was, I don't remember a scene where you're on the edge of your seat. The zombies. That's one problem with this show is the zombies have increasingly become just a threat to dumb people.
Yeah.
They're not a threat to normal people at all. And the last time we saw any kind of effective zombie thing, I thought, was when people were sleeping and when the Saviors attacked and somebody died in their sleep and started biting everybody.
Right.
Which I refuse to believe that they would still allow that to happen. Like, because anybody could die in their sleep, and then you got a whole zombie. But anyway, that was the last time the zombies seemed like an effective threat, and really before that, they just knock them down like it's there's no threat to them at all, and I missed that. And this episode did not reestablish that for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure where the human threat is coming from. And again, it seemes like they established this stuff, but where's the plot going? Like, where's the story?
Right.
What is the story? But overall, I do like. I thought they took time to show people having real conversations and stuff that weren't just completely plot driven. They had character moments that they've been, for some reason, refusing to give us for a long time.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But go ahead. What did you want to talk about next?
Well, next I was thinking one of the things that jumped out at me as far as the whole sanctuary scenes was obviously we've got Daryl, who, well, first of all, of course, they see the graffiti on the wall, still proclaiming loyalty to Negan.
Right.
So there's still that threat of, Negan being a martyr, even though technically, obviously, he's still alive. He's in prison. We didn't see him this episode, but that's where he is. But they've got
there are people who had it better under Negan than they feel like.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. So they've still got that thread going, which may bring up a plot later in the season. Then we've got basically Daryl saying that he doesn't want to be leader of of the Sanctuary anymore because he wants to go back to where they were in smaller groups and he could trust everybody, and he didn't like the situation they're in now. Carol, of course, ends up kind of volunteering to take over for him. Anything in that section of the show that jumped out at you?
Well, first, I like Daryl speaking. Like such a huge.
Yeah, there's that. Something we have missed desperately in the last 2 to 3 seasons.
He's a good charismatic actor, and all they've done is just let him glare and try to be charismatic under just layers of grime. I don't know if he changed his hairstyle, but his hairstyle doesn't annoy me as much. And you could see his eyes, both of his eyes, and he was speaking coherently, and his expressions and his all seem to go together into expressing words, which. That character, I've always been confused half the time by what he's thinking, what he's doing, because he seems so contradictory a lot of times.
Yeah.
And he doesn't come out and say what he's thinking. So, but this was like he's becoming more outspoken, but it seemed like a natural progression. I did not like that they didn't show us. It's like we're just told he's been a leader here for a year and a half.
Yeah.
Well, that's a pretty big deal to just skip over, and obviously it's gone badly, or he has no attachment to the people after a year and a half. He has no attachment to the people.
Yeah, you got no attachment to anybody. I mean, they showed a very, very little bit of the kind of like his style of relation when he does seem to be kind of over it. You have the zombie scarecrow scene where he just walks up, puts an arrow into its head, and and he's kind of barking orders at a couple of guys here and there, but that's really all we see of his leadership style.
Well, he doesn't believe in the Sanctuary. He states that plainly. He says, this is a dead end, and I can see it, so I don't want to be involved in it anymore. So they deserve a better leader than that anyway. But all he did was do a bunch of stuff off screen that we don't know about, and then turn around and go right back to where they left him at the end of last season, which it seemed like he was Maggie's ally. Remember they had that scene at the end where they're all together? Well, it seems like he didn't really do much of anything. He just ended up right back where he ended at the end of last season. So I don't know about that, but I did like Daryl in it, and I liked him and Rick talking, more normally and stuff, and not, more like real people. And I don't understand Carol just all of a sudden going, oh, by the way, Sanctuary, we're taking out Daryl and we're putting in Carol.
Yeah.
I think there might be a riot.
There might be a problem with that.
Yeah, you really. Those people don't know Carol.
No,
off screen they might know her.
Right.
The year and a half that's passed, but why would they have any trust for her? And why would they be like, where's your badass second in command guy? Why is he leaving us and you're giving us this other person that
we don't even know?
We don't even know if she cares about
over
us.
At the kingdom,
Yeah, I don't think you can take over command of people like that that easily, and I don't. and again, they established a relationship with Ezekiel off screen, and we see it for one episode, and then it's separated.
Yeah.
And the show has a tendency to do that. It has a tendency to separate everybody.
And that's been
tease
really
us with the next
for me
step,
last
and you have to
season.
wait a whole season until just one step is taken. You know,
One step is taken. Agreed.
And
So
I don't.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I don't see Carol as the leader type. She is
Yeah, I mean,
the support. I mean, she's a badass support character.
exactly.
If you have
Not
her
necessarily
at your back,
a great leader.
if you have her at your back, you're in pretty good shape. But yeah, I don't see her. But maybe they'll show us something different, you know, with her. She's great and love her, so at least she's not whining and crying and running away for no reason whatsoever. Like, I've killed 1,000 people with no remorse, and suddenly I've had enough. I have to run
I
away.
can't do it anymore.
Right?
Yeah. I think that's really a weird way to go.
But why do you think they're married to this idea of the sanctuary? Why is it still there? I mean, they lost.
They, as in
great, like the show
or the producers.
Like, yeah, the show. Like, what is it? Just because they still have that set, and because they want to leave Negan a power base to go back to at some point.
I mean, it's hard to say because we haven't seen the rest of the season. We don't know what they really have in mind. You know, they may have a particular a plot that's going to take place there.
Like the women in the swamp. Okay, why would they stay there if the saviors are gone? So why would that? They should pull up stakes and go to a normal community. So why is that still there? And what's the point of the sanctuary when it's been overthrown and they're saying it's a horrible place to live? Well, why wouldn't you go integrate?
Go to the other places. Community? Yeah, exactly. Or create a new place somewhere else. Yeah, agreed.
I don't really get that other than maybe the show, you know, we have these sets and we're going to use them. And maybe they're going to try to reignite this conflict with Negan again. And so they have to have those followers for him to go back to.
Yeah. So what did you think of the sort of deification of Rick by some of the saviors?
I thought it was great.
I thought that was interesting, yeah.
And Rick handled it like Rick usually does.
Yeah, like Rick usually does, yeah.
So, but no, I think that would definitely happen with some people at some point, and with all these different characters that have survived this long and he took down Negan, you know, who was their commander and feared by everyone. I do think, what's his nuts? Eugene. I think Eugene would probably have a higher status now because of the role he played.
Honestly, when they talked about finding a new leader, I literally thought, like, I can see them putting Eugene in charge of the sanctuary.
Because he's got the big brain and he's shown that he's willing to make decisions for the greater good and everything.
Right.
But maybe that's just not his thing. But you know, I liked Rick. I liked Rick overall in this episode, although again he seems to have a deaf ear to what people are telling him a lot of times. Yeah, and I don't totally understand that about his character, but the supporting characters around Rick were great. Michonne was great. I loved the relationship with Rick and Michonne. I thought was depicted. Briefly, really, really well. You know. And Maggie and his relationship was great because she kind of told him off a little bit.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I like how they've juxtaposed Maggie and Rick almost like it's basically Maggie has kind of leapfrogged him, and I know this is jumping ahead a little bit, but I love the line. When they talk towards the end, when when she basically called him out on his own statement from last season, saying, you said that it's time for me to step back and for you to lead. Well, you're not letting me do it.
Yeah, you're still coming in and telling me what needs to be done.
Telling me what to do. Yeah, exactly.
And you're just expecting it to be done, right?
Exactly. Yeah, without question. All right, because he's so used to being the leader.
And it's kind of like she's saying, there was a vital moment there where you could have given me what I wanted and you didn't. And so now you're continually asking me, because of my good decisions, to help you out when you wouldn't give me the one thing I required. And, So I think that little bit of a grudge is there.
So, speaking of Maggie, kind of the wrap up of the episode, I think will be everything that happens back at Hilltop. With obviously, when they go back, they talk to the parents of this Ken character, whoever he was, and they're distraught. Of course, they're distraught at the loss of their son over what they consider to be something completely meaningless, basically just gathering supplies that are ultimately going to go to the sanctuary. And they're obviously very upset, and this leads, long story short, to Gregory finding an opening to say, "Hey, I can overthrow Maggie by getting these people on my side." Right. And so, because he's obviously doing the typical Gregory thing. Well, that's a shame. Boy, it never would have happened if I were in charge. The usual Gregory.
His 25th attempt to get power back. Yeah.
Exactly. So he comes up with this plot. He ends up getting the father, Ken's father, to wear this cloak and hide over. Which, I mean, this whole thing was set up as so blatant you could see it coming from 10 miles away. Right. When he has this conversation with Maggie, meaning Gregory has a guy like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I saw Glenn's grave was defaced. Why don't you go check that out?" Wink, wink. Yeah. And then she goes over there, and of course, and there's this attempted murder, and she thwarts that, and then she ends up going inside, and Gregory tries to kill her, but she ends up, of course, getting the knife away from him, and and has him incarcerated, as it were. What did you think of the final scene?
What was the final scene?
The hanging.
Okay, it ended right there. Yeah, I can't remember.
That's literally the last thing you saw was, I mean, obviously we had the hanging scene, and we had the bad timing with the kids being out there, and they're like, wait, don't do it now with the kids standing here, and then they hang him anyway.
Yeah. First off, Gregory had it coming, right? I mean, forever. Ever since he's been introduced, he's just been looking for some. He didn't have one decent bone in his body, not one.
He's just a complete weasel.
And he brings nothing to the table. I never once did they ever show him contribute a single thing to anything, except him acting like he's entitled somehow. So, whatever, kill him. He's a great actor. I loved his work in the past. I forget his name, but I think he was kind of underused for what, as far as the writing for him he should have been written a lot more clever. He was so transparent. But that guy can deliver on a really kind of nasty villain, bureaucratic type that you dislike. He could have delivered a lot more. But they kind of wrote him into a corner. Yeah, there you go. He's great. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's got a long resume. Great actor. Sad to see him go. That they didn't try to make him a real threat, maybe, or try to turn him around. And it would have been really surprising if he had done like a Father Gabriel, and become a useful person,
and become a useful member of the society.
Then we could have had a great actor still on the show, and you could do something different with him, because he got less screen time than the morning parents, and we don't know these morning parents, and they went on and on and on about rating Maggie and everything. I guess they were trying to make it believable they would turn on her, but that just, now I see why the episode was, 10 minutes longer than normal or something, just so we could have these parents in there longer to establish whatever. And also, on that note, way too many commercials, just like always, on any premiere, any big event, The Walking Dead, they just eat it up with commercials. The commercials of the zombies eating the show is ridiculous. It just seemed like a scene would pop on and boom, you're right back in a commercial.
Agreed.
It was, it was really, talk about greedy. But anyway, all that being said, the last scene I was fine with it, but Gregory's had it coming. He's expendable. If they're going to write him like that, he's expendable. They're showing the evolution of Maggie, but it doesn't affect the other characters like it should. Do you think Rick would really care that that character was killed? Do you think Michonne was upset about it? That is a despicable dude. He had it coming. If they wanted to create a moral and a real division between the characters, they should have had it be a character that the others would be invested in saving. So that she trumps them and says, "Nope, you're in my community now, and they're going to die right in front of your eyes. There's nothing you can do." That would have been much more of a bold statement. But
I agree.
But the way they're taking it, I understand, but there's no way Rick or even Michonne can sit there and be a moral arbiter and say, we can't be killing people willy-nilly. I mean, they're mass murderers, They've done whatever it's taken in the past to survive, especially Rick. Rick's eaten, ripped the carotid artery out of people's neck.
Exactly.
With his teeth. So, Yeah, so it's hard to, they're kind of in a corner where, you can say we're starting over and these people could be outraged by someone being executed, but they wouldn't be. This should be happening all the time, frankly.
Yeah.
You can't have people like that in your community. Can't have it. He should have known better. I did like his final performance when he attacked her with the knife.
Yeah.
And just, the balls on this guy, he just somehow thinks it's still going to work out for him. And she kicked his ass, which was great,
Exactly.
That was kind of a female empowerment moment that was done well, I thought, because it wasn't, she went in there by herself and confronted him. And he totally, she probably would have spared him then, but he attacked her with a knife. But I think the whole reason she was so ruthless was because her child was involved.
Oh, I think so too, yeah.
And
I agree.
And as far as him manipulating her with Glenn, that was very, very obvious, but it was also something that would have worked, I think. So,
yeah, because it's not something she couldn't have checked on.
You got to remember, he's lived with them for a year and a half, and without trying to kill anyone else.
True.
So
and that's something that again
came out of nowhere because of an opportunity that arose. So it was hard to understand, but they, like Jesus and all, them, kind of trusted Gregory a little bit at this point, not to do anything weird. He has no saviors to ally with, so they think he's probably pretty harmless.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I enjoyed it. I was shocked that they did it so quick because lately The Walking Dead seems to just draw everything out so long. I could see that taking 4 episodes to get to that.
Well, why? Because he's such a minor character, really.
I agree.
Kill him, get over with.
So, but yeah, I overall enjoyed it. I thought it ended on an interesting note, and then of course the previews for next week looks like it's going to be kind of Negan centric with a lot of the discussion with him and Rick in the prison and things like that. So we'll see where that goes.
I think too the foreshadowing was on the wall there that it was Daryl that killed him.
Yeah,
she said do it, and Daryl walked over and without they were trying to yell stop or whatever, and Daryl just.
Nope.
Just smacked the horse, went right through it. So I think the message is there that Daryl is Maggie's enforcer now.
It definitely gave you that impression. That was a good point. Yeah.
I think that's a foreshadowing that he's going to be carrying out her orders basically from this point on. And
it seems like he's more in tune with her leadership style anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And who knows what he's thinking and how far he's willing to go and stuff. He's very loyal, and if he gets attached to her, who knows what he might be willing to do. But so overall, are we at where we want to talk about overall? What kind of grade would you give it on like a 10-point scale?
Let's see. On a 10-point scale, I'd probably give it about a 7, 6.5, 7.
Yeah, I think it'd be like 6.5.
Yeah,
just because it was watchable. It's a new thing, so you're like full of potential.
Yeah, it's always like the praying of a new season.
The next 3 episodes just aren't complete filler like they usually do after premiere. They didn't touch base with a whole bunch of characters. They just implied some things like, is it Aaron? I think he was just briefly shown, wasn't he? And
he was shown Jesus while they were out just kind of gathering stuff. Yeah,
and Eugene was kind of glimpsed, and some characters didn't even have any dialogue and stuff.
Tara, we saw a little bit of Tara talking on the walkie-talkie with Eugene. That's about it.
I, of course, being I'm somebody I don't ship or anything like that.
Yeah,
but I always expected Daryl and Carol to get together just because of their story, just because of what I saw on screen. And so I did like the moments that they had those two actors.
I've always liked those two on screen together. I agree. And as far as like relationship wise, that's something I was kind of looking at maybe back in season 3, season 4. I can see that happening now. It seems like they've definitely developed more of a brother-sister dynamic. And I like them better that way. So, but yeah, I always love scenes with the two of them on screen together. I think they have a really good chemistry.
Well, it's kind of one of those things that the show dodges a lot. I'm not sure why, just to keep people watching maybe.
Yeah.
But after all these years, there would be lots of relationships in that group, and with the people that were surviving together and stuff.
Yeah, so, there really would.
But they made Daryl such a trying to make him just an icon that goes on a poster in a video game. He had no personality for so long. He was like a child or something, which if you watch the first 2 seasons, he wasn't like that at all. They regressed him, and I don't know why.
I don't get it.
It
seemed like they were developing him really well for the first couple of seasons, 2, 3, 4 seasons, and then it just kind of like they like forgot that he was part of the cast, you know?
Well, he just wasn't allowed. He was just like super loyal to Rick, never said anything. He became completely silent. He wasn't allowed to have any, he was obviously torn up when Beth was killed, but there was no implication that he was in love with her or that he wanted to have a relationship with her. You know, it's like they refused to like take those kind of chances.
Yeah.
So he's a very unrealistic character. It became very unrelatable to me. So now that he's talking, and I felt like he might have been a little bit upset about her being with Ezekiel, like he doesn't totally approve for whatever reason. That makes him more human to me, and more relatable, and it lets the actor do something besides just be this impenetrable wall of coolness or whatever he was supposed to be.
Right, exactly. So that's episode 1.
Yeah, what did I say? I was thinking 6.5, yeah.
6.5, yeah.
And I'm looking forward to the rest. I am. I just hope they don't let us down with the typical.
Yeah, same here. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm sticking it out, as long as it goes, I guess. But anyway, that's basically episode 1 of season 9 of The Walking Dead. Hopefully, we have lots more to look forward to, getting better moving forward.
Let me ask you something before we go. What are you looking forward to? Like, what do you hope they do
this season? Expectations? Yeah. I would say I would really like to see some of the communities come together a little bit more to form, fewer units, I guess is the way to look at it. Because to me, that's been one of the big problems the last few seasons. That I just feel like, you already alluded to it earlier, everything's just kind of scattered.
The continuity, you can't really follow one story. Yeah, you have to establish a whole world.
You see these main characters all for one episode, and then you don't see them for 3 episodes again.
Yeah. Their ambition was to create this massive. They said, we're going to expand the world. It's so exciting, but they kind of sacrificed the show in doing that because they didn't realize that people aren't that excited by the world expanding. They're more excited by seeing the group struggle.
And honestly, in retrospect, when you go back and watch characters. When you go back now and watch the first couple of seasons, it makes that look even better than it really originally was, because it was a tight-knit group and these people were,
all that mattered is what happened to those people. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Not like, what is this new community of women? Right. How did they get here?
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff is just kind of a waste of time, but especially when you have no plan going forward and it all just ends up. What about Negan? Because we didn't talk about this. Negan kind of ate the show the last year, in my opinion.
Seasons, yeah.
They got enamored. The writers got enamored or something, and he had really endless monologues and endless dick jokes.
I'm not really sure. Yeah, I'm not really sure what they're going to do with this character, to be honest with you. Because obviously the big question mark of the whole season is going to be, Rick Grimes. How is Andrew Lincoln leaving the show? In what way are they even going to kill him off? I don't see any way to not kill him off. What is he going to do? Right off into the sunset by himself? That's not his style. That's never been his style. So it'd be interesting to see kind of how they, if they, I'm assuming they're probably going to make it some sort of sacrifice, maybe. I don't know, but that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. What do you think? What are your impressions on or what are your feelings about that?
I think he'll end up in a coma right where he started.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
I think that way he can come out of it if he decides he needs more money.
So they've got the cash, the asterisk.
Yeah, he's Han Solo and Carbonite, okay? But bring back a Star Wars theme. I think it'd be very tempting to put him right back in the situation he was in and to kind of throw an existential spin on it, like how much of this has been Rick in a coma and how much of it has been real. We know it's all real. They're not going to go there, but you could do some cool implications of that. Then again, that's heavy-handed, and I doubt they could pull it off. But that would be a way, because I was thinking, like, what if, he's driving a wagon that goes off a cliff, and nobody knows if he's alive or dead. That's the kind of thing, I think it'd be either be a mystery, so they can bring him back later, or he'll end up in a coma. He is a unifier. He's a quest guy. He's always going on a quest, always to find people, unify people. So Morgan is out there, and Morgan's got another group. They've got communications. Somebody could ask for help. The whole theme of this season seems to be setting up a power struggle of how do we go forward. Whose worldview are we buying into? Are we buying into Maggie's worldview, Michonne's worldview, Negan's worldview? Rick's worldview isn't cutting it. Obviously, they're setting up. He's already trying, and he's not thinking far enough ahead or something. He's just trying to please everybody. That's not working.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's very likely he will be unseated from any sort of power. He'll probably give it up willingly at some point, and then he's free to leave. You say he won't go off by himself, then maybe he won't. Maybe he will have a mission. If his daughter is safe in Michonne's hands and Daryl's hands and all of his trusted friends,
then he'll feel comfortable enough. Yeah. If he doesn't have those shackles of leadership, then,
right? Because this isn't a world where people do it in the military all the time today. Yeah. In this kind of world, you may have to leave your family. And I think the temptation would be too strong to do a big dramatic sacrifice, like you said. That's probably what they'll do. But I could see the character leaving to go unify more people, to bring more people in. He's not a great organizer. He's an action person. Let's go where the trouble is and help people and find and bring them back.
Right.
So I could see him doing that, something like he did in the first season. Looking for his family. He could go looking for some characters, but. This is, the show's going downhill as far as ratings and everything. And how much more have they got? How much more everybody's got to be exhausted.
And that's the thing, too. What kills me, though, is that I think the producers just seem completely oblivious to what's really going on. Because, from what I understand, last year they had lost almost half their audience. So far this year, the premiere, the numbers for the premiere season 9 were almost half of what watched last season. So, we're talking about a show that in 3 seasons has gone from an average of like 15 million viewers down to around 6 million or 5 million. Which granted, it's still 5 million, but when you're a third of what you were 3 years ago, then something is trending in the wrong direction. So, that's something they're going to have to figure out.
It's not just fatigue of the concept, because the comic's still out there going, and and it's more that they haven't delivered. For whatever reason, and I'm sure there's a temptation there that as it's going out to just make it a cash grab. And so I'm going to be interested to see how much they restrain the showmakers, from actually making good episodes and spending money. Are they going to spend money on this as they go down? And hopefully, maybe this season will somehow be brilliant and turn it around. But I think some of the same people are still involved that probably made it. And AMC is still involved and everything else. And so I don't have a hope for a total resurrection, but I do hope it's entertaining. And is it the 9th year now, you said?
9th season, yeah.
So it's time to deliver on some of this. All these things that have been teased out and we've been expecting to see maybe we'll see it next year. Maybe we'll see it next year. It's time to, I think it's time to pony up and show some of that stuff. Even though that usually means the end of the show, I think the show's going to end anyway. It's going to be too exhausting and expensive to make.
But to get back to my original point of bringing that up, why I think that it seems like there's some sort of disconnect between our expectations and the producers' expectations is that I don't know if you've read these articles online. The producers just 2 weeks ago, I read an interview with one of them, and they said, "Oh, we expect at least 10 more seasons of Walking Dead." I'm like, what?
Okay.
Like 10 more seasons?
Yeah, Adventures of the Sanctuarians.
You haven't even. That's more than half of what we've already got.
And congratulations, you killed off one of the main protagonists. That was in the comic. You're going to use your comic material. Well, Carl's
the one
inheritor.
Generation.
You killed him off. You could have even tried to recast if something was wrong with the actor or something.
Right.
You could have tried anything, but you killed him off, and you killed him off in a really dumb way. That nobility virus that people catch, they become noble and they die. Like, what I mean? Like, did you ever see Carl behave in a way that would make him the saint he became in those last 2 episodes? No, it was totally untrue to character. Yeah. Made no sense and almost insulting. It's like it was dumb. I would have liked it if they'd introduced the Whisperers that way. From what I don't know much about them, but from what I understand, there may be people wearing,
they wear basically the skin of the dead. They skin them and they put it over their own.
So he should have been bitten by a Whisperer. Then everyone thinks he's going to die, and he does not. Then you throw that. I mean, come on, that's a good way to actually throw in a Glenn under the dumpster, but it's actually legit. It's a good way to do it. Glenn under the dumpster was stupid. Right. Bitten by a Whisperer would actually pan out into something cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, going forward, I don't know about the person they should be killing off in my mind is Negan. and he should have killed him off already.
Oh yeah,
because I was really excited to see what this, because all the comic book guys were always commenting, you wait till you see Negan, he's the greatest. And Jeffrey Dean Morgan, fantastic actor.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful.
Yeah. Charismatic dude, like way too good for the show, frankly. And they just, it became a mess because they wanted to talk and not show us anything.
Mm-hmm.
He started off by giving a little speech, had everybody on the edge of their seat, but then he was action. That's the last action he really did. He just killed off minor characters. He stabbed that one guy in Alexandria who was a traitor to Rick. But he really, he just became a pushover after that. Like everybody he met, he liked. Oh, I like you, Sasha. She betrayed him. Oh, I like you, Eugene. Oh, I like you, Carl. It's like, is this guy trying to win a popularity contest or what? Or is he a villain? And but he ate the show. And if they would get back to giving us a good villain, even an anti-hero, now that everybody's civilized, give us, Rick 2.0 or something, but they seem to just shackle the character. The conflict was totally unrealistic, and it's over. It's like they kind of blew their ratings continued to go down the more he was featured, it seemed like to me. I don't know anything about ratings.
No, but I think that's probably the case. I agree that at the beginning he was extremely effective, and then the longer he was on the show, the more weak his character became, just from the fact that they misused the character. They misused the actor and the character. Like you said, a lot of exposition, a lot of let's have another monologue for 5 minutes, and as opposed to actually doing anything, and that's always going to grow thin on an audience after a while.
And they showed us no reason whatsoever why a guy like Negan would allow Rick to continue breathing.
Correct.
He had him under his thumb for all those episodes, and Rick continually defied him. Rick had all this load of all these people. Rick's very capable, and Negan just seemed to look at the script and go, "Oh, he's the main character. I can't do anything to him." Right. And that's the only reason is a totally unrealistic to the show reason why he would allow Rick to live. Mm-hmm. So it became that frustrating thing of Rick being subjugated when it should have been a mano-a-mano fight the whole time. Mm-hmm. That's what would have compelled people. Is if these guys were fighting and getting in brawls and Negan narrowly escapes, and Negan does some horrible, despicable thing again, and you just burning with passion to see somebody catch him and kill him, and he continually turns the tables like a good villain. Mm-hmm. But we just got a lot of, I don't know where that was going. And I think there's the potential there to say Negan's going to come out of the shadows and offer that a different choice for the new world. We're going to have Maggie. We're going to have Ezekiel. Yeah, we're going to have all these different choices. And I think Negan is there to give that one last shot of the people who rule by force, and who take what they want and call that justice. But I'm not sure why, and I'm not sure why we should care at this point. Yeah. The Saviors have no compelling characters amongst them.
No, they really don't.
Zero. They never established, the only decent ones they established they killed off in the conflict because they had to kill some people. Dwight was a good character.
Yeah, Dwight's gone. I like Dwight. I'm assuming he's going to come back at some point.
Yes.
Simon, of course, they
maybe
killed him off.
Maybe he joined the Whisperers because he's got the scarred face.
Yeah, could be. And they killed off Simon, who I thought was also a very compelling character.
Yeah, he had a lot of potential and very representative of the old worldview, which Negan only had one foot in. Negan could never commit to being a true villain. It was weird. Kind of like the Governor in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm.
Very true.
Yeah, the show always seems to balk when they have a really charismatic good actor. They want to just keep them around and keep giving them work and stuff. Negan should have just built that to a crescendo where the final battle should have been amazing and and getting in the villains defeated. Then you could let him live or not. It doesn't matter. But right now it feels like it's just a long tease or something. And you kill off Glenn and Abraham for that. That starts in retrospect. That looks like a big stunt for ratings, like a cash grab. Like they said, this is our peak. We're going to cash out here. Yep. We're going to leave it in your hands to run it into the ground. But that really was like a gut punch. Looking back, it was hard to get invested in all the new characters they threw at you when you don't have Glenn around. And Abraham wasn't always the best written character stuff, but I was fond of the actor and the character. He had been around. He had links to those people. And so looking back, it's like, you really had to deliver on Negan if you're going to kill those guys like that.
Exactly.
Now we got
failed in that.
Now we've got a Hannibal Lecter thing that's coming next week, and I'm looking forward to it because I still Jeffrey Dean Morgan's awesome, and I'm hoping if the writing has changed or something, I don't know what changes have been made. I'm hoping he's written a lot better and can become somehow compelling, whether it's to see him redeemed or whether he just goes full out, villain, unrepentant and trying to get revenge. But right now, there's no villain. There's no story. It's just the main characters kind of turning on each other at this moment. I don't know that ultimately that's what people want to see. Overall season.
Yeah, the only changes that I know of that were made, I know the showrunner was changed because they brought in Angela Kang. I mean, she was already there, but they promoted her because I know Scott Gimple moved over to Fear the Walking Dead as far as showrunning. Really? Yeah. So that's that's the only real major switch up I've noticed. So, but other than that, I'm not sure.
Couldn't AMC give him his own thing, move him along to something else, let Walking Dead die in peace?
Right. Exactly. Okay. Any final thoughts that you have on episode 1?
Decent episode. Did not disgust me, although I know we've gone way over time, but I have to mention something.
Okay.
Because I completely forgot it. The scene where Ezekiel proposes. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
This is kind of a big character-driven scene and character moment, and it's cool that they are not just ignoring that those characters had a connection. As much as it all happened off screen, at least they're delivering on, I hate when they reset and act like characters don't even know each other.
Act like they don't even know each other. Yeah,
of course he'd propose to Carol. She's great, and he's pretty awesome. So of course they would get together. It makes sense. But that scene was so dumb. That just took me out of the show. They blatantly shot them on a dolly or on a wagon or something, and then cut to the shot of them doing this on the horses.
Yeah,
and they're like, "Oh,
perfectly
Carol.
Still."
Yeah. Oh, but Carol, allow me to propose to you as I ride smoothly. And then in the long shot, he's like, "Holy crap! I gotta hold on." And she's doing this, and then she's like, "I don't know, Ezekiel. I don't know if I should." And that was just so bad. It was like, who? What? Why? How can they let that slide? That's when I just see the grubby fingers of AMC, not willing. Somebody said, "Hey, can we reshoot this?" It doesn't look right. And they went, "Hell no." You think anyone's going to care?
Money. Yep.
Yeah, you think anyone's going to care about that? It's a show about zombies. Who cares if it's realistic about horses?
Exactly.
But yeah, that was so early on. It was like, oh my God, really? That was so disappointing. And it ruins a great moment for me. I couldn't even focus on what the actors were doing.
Yeah.
Did you even notice that? Did that vibe? Or am I crazy?
I'd have to go back and watch it again to see.
So it didn't jump out. It nailed me. I was like, oh my God, you gotta be kidding. I hate when they do that in movies and shows and stuff.
It's a continuity issue that bugs me, that kind of stuff. Which I would have to go back and see because usually I'm tuned into that stuff. I'm like the first person that notices some sort of continuity problem, just little minuscule stuff, not even stuff as big as what you're talking about. But I always tend to notice that kind of stuff. Little things like in this shot, they're holding a glass that's 3/4 full.
Yeah.
And they go to a second angle where they're still standing there holding it, and it's like there's nothing left in it. It's like, wait, where did all that liquid go?
I love it when
the person in the theater that will notice that.
I love it when they use a shot that was obviously for something completely different, like the person in the foreground who's got their head turned. You can tell their mouth is moving, but they've added other dialogue to someone else in post. So they're just matching. Yeah, they're just matching stuff up that doesn't. Because they have to.
That's one of my big pet peeves too, the filmmaking.
But this is how easy that would have been to fix. Is you have Ezekiel go, "Oh, my horse has something in his shoe. Hold on, Carol." And he gets off his horse, and she's like, "Oh, well, okay." And the group moves a little beyond them so he can have some privacy. And then they have the scene on foot in front of their horses. Right. There's none of this dumb
and in private
dynamic going on. Yeah, and in private, it would make a hell of a lot more sense than it just looking like. I know Ezekiel does everything publicly, but so it sort of makes sense. But that would have been a much more effective. Draw your attention in on these characters instead of them blatantly, doing that dumb routine that they did. So anyway, stuff just continues to irk me. I don't, if I was doing it, I would have done a lot worse, but you look at it and you're like, why didn't somebody fix that? Is everybody an intern and they're afraid to say something?
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's Carol and Ezekiel, two great characters. I don't want to be laughing at their emotional moment.
No. Absolutely not.
But going forward, I want to see what they do with Negan. If he's going to be like he's been, kill him. Kill him. Kill him in some big, but please, a story, and not just a bunch of plot, not just a bunch of actions contrived.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just like action driven, like all these plots where somebody has to run off into the woods for no reason.
Yeah.
And they're completely out of character, and then somebody else decides to do this, and please stop with all that stuff and just give us a linear plot. We're in a very simple world here. Just give us a linear plot that makes sense, and characters we can sink our teeth into, unintended, I guess, and more zombies. I really want to see. I want to see the zombies become a threat again, and not a herd, and not oh look, it's circus zombies or ones that do flips. I don't want to see them all mutating. I just want them to be creepy and badass and scary again. And why people don't wear thick clothing. I know they're filming in Atlanta, but I mean the human bite, especially one from a dead person, cannot be that strong. And yet you're going around. Nobody even wears like a leather jacket. That would stop a zombie bite. Mm-hmm. I know. There's no way I should even be thinking about this stuff.
But no, it's frustrating because
they have
some simple stuff is just being overlooked.
Yeah, like the mother at the hilltop, she said, "I told him to take his jacket."
Right.
It could have stopped that zombie bite. Like they should not be allowed. Like, wasn't it back in season 3 or 4 when Glenn put on that military or the SWAT suit, and the zombies couldn't hurt him at all? He was surfing on them.
Yeah, exactly.
And they somewhere along the way they lost that, and nobody ever thought to go, do that kind of thing. Anyway. But the zombies should be a threat, and I hope the Whisperers bring that back. That's kind of cool to add a human element. Maybe if the humans are controlling the zombies somehow, have learned what they respond to, and are using them, weaponizing them and stuff.
Yeah,
that'll be cool. But
that would be nice.
Yeah, Negan thing, I'm over it. Let's get some real conflict and some real well written stuff and a story to get us invested again.
Yeah, story is what it all boils down to.
Not just a concept of we're rebuilding the world. There has to be a story.
There has to be a story behind that.
Right. Yeah. Right now, when you go to a museum to get a wagon and a plow, I'm not sure I'm on your team. I'm not that invested in those people. They just seem kind of dumb.
Yeah.
So, I just can't believe putting their heads together. They can't come up with it. So it's hard, It's like, come on, guys. You got a year and a half. This is what you guys are doing now. So yeah, maybe the saviors have the right idea. But and that's one of my other pet peeves of the show is that everybody's so stupid. Just so stupid. Conveniently when it's required.
Yeah.
And that should not be happening. There's no way you can be stupid in any kind of apocalypse. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so yeah, let's hope we get finally a season that harkens back to some kind of greatness.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so that is episode 1 of The Walking Dead season 9. That is our 4-hour synopsis.
This is the first time you and I have talked about Walking Dead, so there was a lot.
It really is. Yeah, so there was a lot more. Speaking of extra exposition,
right?
There was more than will normally happen on this. So anyway, thanks for everybody for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it didn't put you completely to sleep, but we'll promise to do better next time. All right. See you then.
Bye.
We all know around here, the solo always does shots first. Singing yup no, yup yup. You're singing yup no, cha-cha. Yup no, no. At the Cantina Club.
God.